My name is Geers, and the way I pronounce it is not really Swedish, but it is actually Dutch. But I hope that doesn't scare you away. I'm already since saab since 1986, and I started actually in Holland. And Holland is a very specific and very strong saab market, where saab has a fantastic image, even a better image than, for example, established brands like BMW and Mercedes. So from that perspective, I think a good start. And actually in '96 I went over to saab in Sweden to become responsible for European communications, basically working with the European media and trying to lift, of course, the image of saab. Then I spent some time in the US, 2 years at saab in Atlanta at the headquarters, Saab Cars USA Communications. That was a very short time. Before I went over to Zurich, General Motors headquarters, did liaison work between saab and General Motors. And then the year was not over, and then they asked me to come and take the job as Global Communications Manager or Director at saab in Sweden.
Excellent.
2 offices, one in Pixbo in Gothenburg, more the commercial office, and one close to the factory, basically on the factory. Some people refer to as the oven. That's where we actually build and make the saabs.
Great, excellent, thank you. Can you tell us about kind of what we're doing today? We have this 94X here, this Biopower concept. Yeah. Obviously, the Biopower technologies come from Sweden. It's a product of that environment. Yeah. We also have the cross-wheel drive, which also is another product that Swedish engineering. Yeah. Can you speak to how good you think that's going to be moving forward down the road?
When we took off, let's say 2 years ago, showing the world what our capabilities were, we showed it in the form of a highly spectacular Aero X. That car basically symbolized what the road ahead is for saab. Not just in design, but also in terms of understanding what the brand is going, where the brand is going. And also making sure that the world understands that General Motors is fully behind saab, because it was a big investment. So, and I think that car surprised very many people around the world, and until today it is extremely high in demand. We just talked to a Hollywood producer who's going to have it in one of his new films with some famous movie stars and so on, and this car is still extremely hot. Now, what it also means is that we set the standard very high. So everything that was following that car, we knew had to deliver on what we promised that time. So today we were actually very glad, and we worked very hard to have the 94X be presented by Carl-Peter Foster. And you might think, yes, he's the president of General Motors Europe, you know, what's his connection to saab? But he's actually the chairman of Saab Automobile. So he has a very strong connection to saab. He is there every other month, talk to the unions and stuff, and do his work as a chairman. And of course the president, Rick Wagoner, who announced it also, just shows what the commitment is of the General Motors leadership into saab. And that's basically the essence and at the heart of the issue. That is, we knew with 9.3 and 9.5 we had a too limited product range. We had to do something. You know, we have swings. We know we need to come between 150 and 200,000 to have a very sound business. We don't need to be bigger than that. That's perfect for us. But we knew one thing, with a 9.7X and all respect to 9.2X, that doesn't really work, because people, of course, understand that they are not truly Scandinavian. So whatever we do right now, everything is done and built in the Saab Brand Center. And the Saab Brand Center is an organization that just secures that every saab, but not just saab, every way of how, you know, way we communicate, how the dealers look like, how the communication brochures look like, our press kits, that it is 100% saab, which means it has to deliver on the 3 values that represent the Saab brand: progressive Scandinavian design, sporty driver focus, so performance oriented, and then responsible performance. And why is Scandinavian so important? Well, first of all, nobody else than Volvo has it. So no Audi, no Lexus, anybody else can say that they're from Scandinavia. And being from Scandinavia is a sort of a strong brand, because Scandinavians, and me being from Holland, know what it means and how these Scandinavians work. Safety is not invented by a marketing department that suddenly, you know, comes up with, hey, you know, it's safety, that sells, you know, customers like it, so let's put it in our cars. I mean, this is a true big demand from Swedish society. If you don't have safety in your product, you don't sell. Fiat, of course, was one of the people, brands that understood this, and of course they did a lot now with safety. Renault, the same thing, and these cars are basically invisible in Sweden. And the other thing is, of course, the respect for the environment. If you live in Sweden, that I do right now, the environment is around the corner, whether you live in the city or not. It's everywhere around you. So care for environment is two of the say, care for environment and safety are the two cornerstones of, let's say, the DNA of a suite, you can say that.
You've worked with Saab for a number of years now. If you look at 21, if my math's correct there. What have you seen over the years that really inspires you and tells you that this is a great company to work with? There's a lot of new products coming out, and where do you see that for you, and saying, you know, this is a company I believe in, these are values that I believe in as not just an employee, but also a person in society. You know, what are some of those things that you think about? And also, that's the first question. And the second question would be, were there many certain key pivotal milestones over your career with Saab that you think were extremely important for the brand? This being another one of those, and maybe just kind of give us a little history lesson, if you will, or recap of what those were.
Yeah. Well, first of all, question number one: what is so attractive about it? First of all, it's the people. I mean, for those of you who have been in Sweden, know that the Swedes are fantastic people. They are sort of humble, but they know what they're doing. I mean, the country is only 9 million people. Where I come from, Holland, 12 the size less than Sweden, and twice the number of people. It's a completely different way. But they have huge companies, the Volvos, the IKEAs, you name it. So there's something mysterious about Sweden. So don't underestimate them. Yeah, what I like about Sweden, of course, is the fact that it is a country that is high up in Europe. And if you live there, you know that somewhere after the summer the light goes out and it's getting dark. The snow is falling down. There are elks on the road. So this all requires cars that can just deal with it. I mean, if you drive from where I live, in the southern part of Sweden, you drive up, there's nobody anymore, apart from maybe a couple of elks and moose and stuff. And if that thing, which is high on its legs, and weighs about 600-700 kilos, comes through your A-pillar, you might as well have some good A-pillars, I can tell you. And I've talked to a lot of Swedes that have experienced that. Thank God we were in the Saab. So that was one of the things. Yeah, and some of the highlights. I mean, there have been many, but when I started at Saab back in the 80s, the Turbo was the yuppie car. That was the car for people to have.
Now, this was on the event for the Talladega that was also going on.
And that was, that was an event for Talladega, but the Turbo and the Saab, the black Turbo, that was the car to have. Everybody had it. You know, the people that want to, well, show it off a little bit, but still in a sort of understated way, to say something against BMW or Mercedes, had it. In London, it was all over the place. But then, honestly, we lost it a little bit. And then also, if you then look through the history, we sometimes blame, GM for, when they took over, then, we lost sort of the soul. I mean, we have been very inconsistent. The key has always been here in the 900s, and then suddenly with the 9000, it was here. That was before General Motors came in. So we have to be very honest that Saab hasn't been very consistent in the way that they executed the products. So when Jan Åke came, actually, who you also had an interview with, I mean, the first thing he said, we have to be consistent in communication and the way we develop products. And they have to be genuinely Swedish or Scandinavian. They have to deliver. It doesn't mean that you have to build them always in Sweden. That's, from a business perspective, not always the smartest thing to do. And of course, we want to make some good money to invest in future products. So, but they have to be genuinely Swedish. So there were a number of highlights, and of course the Aero X, as I said before, that did so much internally and externally, and this has inspired so many people, engineers around the world, so many people within General Motors, everywhere around the world, that they know that this is what Saab is all about, and this is what we're going to build in the future, a unique position. And it's really true, it's not a marketing story. I know that there's so much passion at Saab, and so many people that believe that this has such incredible potential. And I think it was very nice for us to hear now that Bob Lutz, during one of the last launches in the US, said Saab is the crown jewel in the portfolio. So that was for us something like, okay guys, now we have this position. And that's sort of what I said initially. That's also the reason why the 94X was next to Mr. Wagoner for a long time during his presentation today. And that's a position that we now need to use and build on. And I think that when you're looking into the future, you're going to see a lot more, and that future is very close, because very nearby. We're going to surprise the world very soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time.